Imagine walking into a room full of strangers and having someone look directly at you and call you Mom, even though you've never seen this person before in your entire life. That's exactly what happened to Jennifer Brooks on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon, and what she discovered next will make you question everything you think you know about maternal instinct, destiny, and the invisible threads that connect us to people we've never met. Jennifer was 42 years old, divorced, childless, and honestly pretty content with her life. She worked as a physical therapist at a rehabilitation center in Seattle, had a small circle of close friends, spent her weekends hiking and reading, and had long ago made peace with the fact that motherhood just wasn't in the cards for her. She'd tried for years with her ex-husband, gone through fertility treatments that drained their bank account and their marriage, and eventually accepted that some women become mothers and some don't, and that was okay. But on this particular Wednesday, Jennifer had volunteered to help at a community center that worked with young adults aging out of the foster care system, something she'd been doing for about 6 months. It felt good to give back, to use her skills to help kids who'd had rough starts in life learn job skills and build confidence. She'd worked with dozens of young people, taught them resume writing and interview techniques, and had never felt more than professional compassion for any of them, until she met Marcus. Marcus was 19 years old, tall and lanky with nervous energy that made him bounce his leg constantly. He'd been assigned to Jennifer's group for a mock interview session, and when he walked into the room and saw her, he stopped dead in his tracks. His face went pale, his eyes went wide, and before Jennifer could even introduce herself, before she could say hello or ask his name, Marcus whispered one word that changed everything. He said, "Mom." Jennifer laughed awkwardly, because clearly this kid had mistaken her for someone else. She said, "I'm sorry, I think you have me confused with someone else. I'm Jennifer, I'm here to help you practice for job interviews." But Marcus didn't move. He just stood there staring at her with tears streaming down his face. And he said it again, louder this time. "Mom, you're my mom. I know you are." The other volunteers in the room started looking uncomfortable, and Jennifer felt her professional mask slipping because this young man seemed so certain, so convinced, and there was something about his eyes that made her heart race in a way she couldn't explain. She gently guided Marcus to a private office, told the other volunteers she'd handle this, and sat down across from him, trying to figure out what was happening. Marcus was shaking as he pulled out his phone and showed her a photo, a picture so faded and worn that it had clearly been looked at thousands of times. It was a picture of a woman, young, maybe 18 or 19, with long brown hair and a sad smile. And Jennifer's breath caught in her throat because that woman looked exactly like her, or at least exactly like she'd looked 20 years ago. Marcus started talking fast, words tumbling out like he'd been holding them in forever. He told her he'd been in foster care his entire life, that he'd never known his biological parents, that he'd been left at a fire station as a newborn with nothing but this photograph pinned to his blanket. On the back of the photo, in handwriting that was barely legible, someone had written, "Her name is Jennifer, she loves you. I'm sorry." For 19 years, Marcus had carried that photo everywhere, had memorized every detail of that face, had dreamed about the day he might find the woman in the picture. And when he'd walked into that room and seen Jennifer, he'd known instantly, with a certainty that defied logic, that he'd found her. But here's the thing that Jennifer couldn't wrap her mind around. She'd never been pregnant. She'd never given birth. She'd spent years trying desperately to have a baby and failing. This was impossible, except the resemblance was undeniable. Jennifer took the photo with trembling hands and stared at it, and it was like looking into a mirror from 2 decades ago. Same face, same hair, same everything. But it wasn't her. It couldn't be her. Unless... Jennifer felt her stomach drop as a memory surfaced, something she'd buried so deep she'd almost convinced herself it had never happened. When Jennifer was 18, she'd had a twin sister named Jessica. They'd been identical, impossible to tell apart, and they'd been best friends until everything fell apart. Jessica had gotten involved with drugs, had spiraled out of control, and when Jennifer left for college, she and Jessica had a massive fight. Jessica had screamed that Jennifer thought she was better than her, that Jennifer was abandoning her, and Jennifer had screamed back that she couldn't save someone who didn't want to be saved. That was the last conversation they ever had. 3 months later, Jennifer got a call that Jessica had died of an overdose. She was 19 years old. Jennifer had been drowning in guilt ever since, wondering if she could have done something different, said something different, been a better sister. But she'd never known, never even suspected, that Jessica had been pregnant when she died. Jennifer looked at Marcus with tears streaming down her face and said, "I'm not your mother, but I think my sister was." She told him everything. About Jessica, about their identical faces, about the overdose and the funeral, and the 20 years of guilt she'd been carrying. And Marcus, this young man who'd spent his entire life searching for a mother who was gone, sat there processing the fact that he'd found something even more unexpected. He'd found an aunt, a connection to his past, a person who carried his mother's face and could tell him stories about where he came from. Over the next few weeks, Jennifer and Marcus spent hours together. She showed him photos of Jessica before the drugs took hold, told him about how funny and creative and full of life she'd been, helped him understand that his mother had loved him enough to make sure he'd be safe even if she couldn't be there for him. Jennifer got a DNA test to confirm what they both already knew. And when it came back showing they were biological aunt and nephew, they both cried. But they were tears of joy this time, tears of connection and healing and second chances. Marcus had been searching for a mother and found a family. Jennifer had been living with guilt and regret and found a way to honor her sister's memory by being there for the nephew she'd never known existed. She helped Marcus apply to college, taught him to drive, invited him to move into her spare bedroom, and slowly, carefully, they built something that looked a lot like a family. And here's the beautiful part. Marcus still called her mom sometimes, not because he was confused or mistaken, but because Jennifer had stepped into that role willingly, lovingly, and completely. She'd spent years thinking she'd never be a mother, and then the universe had delivered her a 19-year-old son who'd been searching for her his entire life. Some people would call it coincidence that Marcus ended up in that community center on that specific day in Jennifer's group. But both Jennifer and Marcus knew better. Jessica had left that photograph for a reason. She'd written Jennifer's name for a reason. And somehow, across 2 decades and against impossible odds, that message had found its way home. If this story made you believe in destiny, in the power of love that transcends death, in the idea that family isn't always about biology but always about choice, then smash that like button right now. Hit subscribe, because I share real stories about real people that will make you believe in miracles and second chances. And drop a comment telling me your thoughts. Do you believe Marcus was meant to find Jennifer? Have you ever met someone and felt an instant connection you couldn't explain? Share your story below, because every comment matters and your experience could be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Remember that the people we're meant to find will find us, that it's never too late to build a family, and that love has a way of surviving even when everything else falls apart. Stay open to possibility, stay ready for miracles, and never underestimate the power of a mother's love, even when it comes from the most unexpected places.